Megan. I work for Craft Express. First thing I want to say is I am currently 38 weeks pregnant. So if I do a lot of deep breathing, stopping, and some miserable faces, just go along with it. We're trying to get through this. I'm about to pop a week from today, so I wanted to get in one last class before maternity leave. I do see that a few people have asked in the comment section if there is a makeup for class number 2. So as Nicole said, this is class 3 of 3. Last week was supposed to be class number 2. Unfortunately, I was forced to cancel that class because of a doctor's appointment that was unexpected. We'll put it that way. So the good thing is there's no need for a makeup class because all of these classes are the same. They are drop-in style classes where I teach you the basics of what sublimation is, and you all have the chance to ask the questions that are on top of your mind, and I will answer them. So no need for a makeup for class number 2 because this is going to be exactly what class number 2 would have been like. So thank you all so much for joining. Start in the comment section letting me know how familiar are each of you with sublimation. Are you beginners? Are you people who are currently doing sublimation? Are you looking to start a sublimation business? Let me know in the comment section because that will help me to better teach all of you and answer your questions. Okay, so it looks like we have a ton of beginners. Someone just tried sublimation today, so that's great. So, okay, so we have a ton of beginners, which is amazing. We're going to start with the questions in a moment. I see Deborah has already put in, not really a question, but a comment that I would love to address. So start getting those questions in. I'm going to quickly share my screen and talk to you about the small basics of sublimation, and then we'll roll into those questions and explaining everything you need to know to get started. So let me quickly just do a screen share. All right. I'm going to, whoop. Come on, computer, present real quick here. So, first of all, you might be wondering, like, who is this person? Why should I listen to her? So, again, I'm Megan from Craft Express. We are a crafting supply company that mainly deals in sublimation. Between my boss and I, we have 20 years of experience in the sublimation industry. I used to work for Sawgrass Technologies. That's about the extent of what I'll say about Sawgrass on this call. Not that there's anything wrong with Sawgrass. It's just that I no longer work for them and I really can't say much about their product. But I do have the background of working with Sawgrass and being trained there, so I have a lot of familiarity with sublimation and I am a sublimation expert. So some of you might be wondering, what is sublimation? For those of you who are beginners who are looking to dive into this. So in a scientific term, sublimation is the process of when a solid changes into a gas while skipping the liquid phase. So in terms of crafting, that means that sublimation ink that is printed onto a sheet of sublimation paper using a sublimation printer is wrapped around or put on top of a polyester coated blank substrate, whether that be a tumbler or a towel or a mug or an oven mitt, etc. As long as it's a sublimation blank coated in polyester. Once heat is applied to that item at a certain pressure over a certain amount of time, the ink from that sheet of paper goes from a solid form into a gaseous form. And it starts to be absorbed by the polyester inside the blank item. What's happening is those polymers open up like a flower, or like a better example of a very specific flower, a Venus flytrap. And that ink, once it becomes a gas, has nowhere to go but into that polyester, aka that Venus flytrap. Once that heat is taken away, those polymers close up, trapping the ink inside the surface of our item. That is why with sublimation, no matter what you do, your design will never come off it'll never crack, fade, or peel because it's permanently baked into the coating of your item and it becomes one with your item. So that is the basic of what sublimation is in a scientific term. So I'm going to X out of here and stop sharing my screen. Let's see, how can I stop sharing my screen? Oh, here we go. And go ahead and start getting into the questions that you guys have been asking. So first things first I want to address is Deborah, who says, I don't really know anything about sublimation and I don't know if it's for me. Sounds like a big investment. And Deborah, the answer to that is yes and no. So on a surface level, sublimation is a large investment because you have to invest in a sublimation printer, a heat press, sublimation blanks, and then obviously ink and enough inventory so that you can make some mistakes while also selling items to get your money back. When you're talking about the overhead cost of sublimation, you're probably looking at starting around the $1,200 mark for everything, depending obviously on what you want to make. Some items are cheaper than others. Some items, though more expensive, will allow you to pull in a larger profit when selling. So it really depends on what you want to make and sell. So you might say $1,200 sounds like a big investment. To someone like me, it does, absolutely. However, when you're looking at the grand scheme of product decorating, that is not a ton of money. When DTF machines, embroidery machines, etc., all cost more money than that. Another way to lower your overhead costs with sublimation is to skip the printer altogether and go ahead with sublimation sheets or hydro sublimation sheets. Now, these are sheets of pre-printed ink that have colors or designs on them that you can run through a cutter like a Silhouette or a Cricut, cut out a design, and then put that onto your sublimation blank. Generally, those sheets cost around $12 to $14, and they come in rolls, and they might allow you to get a sublimation business off the ground without a larger overhead investment. So you can down the line invest in a sublimation printer that will allow you to design creations on your computer, print them, and then put them onto an item. So there's a few things to think about when it comes to sublimation, and when it comes to what type of investment you could potentially make. Okay. Okay, Danielle, I want a less chemical option that I can use organic materials to make shirts and sweatshirts, including dark colors. I'm looking at DTG because it can use water-based inks, trying to find out what's best for me. So Danielle, this is a awesome point. Totally understand that you want to use fewer chemical options. When it comes to sublimation, we use sublimation ink, which is obviously made of chemicals. But there's something on here that I did want to address that is not really a question you have, but is a question I'm sure other people will have on this call. So first, you said you want to design on dark colors. Now, obviously, you're talking DTG, which you are capable of doing. In sublimation, you cannot design on dark colors. The reason for that is because sublimation inks are transparent. So I'm going to pull out an item, for example. So this was once a white tumbler that we put a design on. As you can see, there is white within this design. That is because there is an absence of color here. Sublimation ink does not print white because it runs on a CMYK format. You put all those colors together, no matter how you try, you cannot print white with those colors. So whenever you see sublimation and you see white, it is because there is an absence of color within that design, and that white is the background color of the tumbler or the t-shirt showing through. That is why we always recommend that you print on white or light colored items. Say this tumbler, when we first bought it, was a light pink, and then we put a design on here. Where all this white space is, you would see a light pink because there is an absence of color there, and the base color of the tumbler will be showing through. What's also important to note is that the base color does impact the other colors that are printed on your item. So if this was a light pink base, it would alter all the other colors within this design to have a light pink hue underneath the colors that are being printed onto it. Because of that, it is impossible to print onto black or dark colors. I could not sublimate this shirt. Another reason why I could not sublimate on this shirt, for example, is because this is a cotton shirt. When it comes to sublimation, you have to have polyester. So we recommend at least 50% polyester in your item. That is because the more polyester, the higher polyester count you have in an item, the more bright and vibrant and crisp your design will look. The less polyester you have, the fewer polyester molecules are grabbing onto the ink that is being transferred. That means that not as much ink is going on to your product, which means that it won't be as bright, it won't be as vibrant, it won't be as crisp. So we recommend at least 50% polyester. The less polyester you have in your item, the more washed out your design will look. So while Danielle did not ask either of those questions, what she brought up made me think of it, and I figured I would go ahead and let you all know that because I know those tend to be two very common questions that we get on these calls. All right. Abby says, I would like to know the difference between sublimation and plastisol ink. Abby, I'm not going to lie, I'm not familiar with plastisol ink, so I unfortunately cannot speak to this, but I wanted to let you know that I was not ignoring your question. So Lori has a question, sublimation versus heat transfer, what are the differences? So Lori, I'm assuming that you're referring to heat transfer vinyl. So what the differences are. So a lot of differences here. When it comes to vinyl, vinyl is a material that you can feel. I have vinyl around here somewhere. Give me 1 second. So this is a piece of vinyl that we have right here. Vinyl tends to come in either a singular color or it comes in a design. And what you do is you run vinyl through a cutting machine like a Cricut or a Silhouette, and you can make a design. But if you want to make a design that has multiple colors or has a little bit more detail, you are forced to layer heat transfer vinyl, which means is I would put one layer down, heat it, put the next layer down, heat it, over and over again until I accomplish my design. A benefit to using heat transfer vinyl as opposed to sublimation is you can use heat transfer vinyl on just about any surface. So you can use it on cotton, or you can use white vinyl. The negative to using heat transfer vinyl is it doesn't have the longevity that sublimation has. As I said earlier, sublimation will never come off, never crack, never fade, never peel. With HTV, eventually you run it through the washing machine too many times, it will come off. And like I said, you can't achieve multicolor, like this, you could never achieve with HTV. This look and all those colors. Obviously with sublimation, what you're doing is you are using either sublimation sheets or you're using a printer. You can print a multicolor high definition design or even photos from a sublimation printer and put them onto an item. The only drawback being it has to be a white or light colored base like we just talked about, and it has to be at least 50% polyester. So both are beneficial depending on what you're looking to create. And of course, depending on your overhead costs, because if you're looking to not really put much investment, HTV is definitely a lower costing item. But if you're looking to do high definition, bright colors, and potential items that have photos on them, then sublimation is the way to go. So, okay. So Julia wants to know, is this similar to Cricut? And the answer is not really. You know, Cricut manufactures cutters. Now they do have some sublimation items, but we are a sublimation company, whereas, as I like to say, Cricut is a vinyl and cutter company that happens to dabble in sublimation. So while we both make some sublimation items, what we both master in are slightly different. Let's see. So Stacy has a great question. Does the sublimation paper under the heat press make the fumes, or is it the oven that makes the fumes? So Stacy, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking here. If you're talking about escaped ink, sometimes you will get little particles of escaped ink when you are pressing an item, whether that be a flat press, tumbler press, mug press, oven. That's why we recommend putting down a parchment or butcher paper when pressing. Because sometimes that escaped ink can get onto some surfaces, specifically the surface of your heat press. But it's very tiny little bitty molecules. If you're talking about a smell, sometimes when you're using a brand new press, specifically a tumbler press, because of how much rubber is on it, you will get some smells. But those will go away over time. It's just that smell of it heating up for the first time and getting used to those high temperatures. Let's see. Okay, so Danielle is back again with another really good point that I want to address. So she just watched a maker video that used a spray to use on cotton and use a white base to put on a shirt for the color to show up. That required more steps. So what she is referring to is there are some sprays that you can use to make a non-polyester item polyester. It's like a polyester coating. You can definitely try it. I personally do not recommend it. And here is why. When you buy a blank that is specifically made for sublimation, it has gone through all of the proper necessary steps to make it a sublimation blank. It is properly coated with the right amount of coating in an even fashion. When it comes to sublimation, if you have a tumbler and this tumbler was sprayed 6 times with your polyester spray, and this side of the tumbler was sprayed 3 times with your polyester spray, this side is going to be brighter and more vibrant. This side will not be. So when it comes to making sure you have that even layer and that the polyester coating has been spread thoroughly, it's very difficult to do, and you're more likely to have an uneven looking design on your item. So I do not recommend the spray. I just recommend buying a sublimation blank that is made to be used with sublimation. And then when it comes to like a white base, you can sublimate onto some white, what's it called? HTV. So you can potentially say this is a black cotton shirt. I could put a square of HTV or a circle of HTV that is a polyester HTV and then sublimate onto that. It would not be considered traditional sublimation because it would not be on a direct polyester surface. It would be on a polyester HTV that's onto a surface, but it is a way to achieve what you're looking to potentially achieve if you want to use cotton or dark colors. Let's see. What if you are using sublimation heat transfer vinyl to place the sublimation image on a dark shirt. So, Jewel, could you be more specific when you say sublimation heat transfer vinyl? Because I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to. There are sublimation sheets that have sublimation ink on them, and then there's heat transfer vinyl. I've never heard of sublimation heat transfer vinyl as a singular product. So if you could get back to me on that, I'd love to answer your question if you just give me some more specifics. Let's see. So Rose wants to know, where can I find an in-person Cricut class? I feel lost and do better with hands-on instruction. Rose, this is not Cricut. So I would definitely defer to Nicole. She may know if Michaels has any in-person Cricut classes. So I'm going to defer you to her on those. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. So Lori wants to know, do the cups have to be coated in some way? The answer is yes. So if you want to sublimate on, say, a tumbler or a mug, you have to have a polyester coated cup. And you can get that at Michael's. We sell them there, or on a sublimation blank supplier like Craft Express's website. But I definitely recommend going through an actual sublimation blanks dealer or a company that sells sublimation blanks like Michael's for those items. Let's see. So Stacy, this is a good question I will address. If you use one brand of ink in your sublimation printer, should you use the same brand each time? So I would say yes. Obviously, all printers are a little bit different. I'm very familiar with the Sawgrass because I used to work for them. And I can say that you can only use Sawgrass ink in a Sawgrass printer. Otherwise, you will get little lines that go through your print. And then when it comes to using, say, an Epson, I'm not entirely sure what they recommend. I know they have a sublimation printer, and then I also know that people will convert Epson printers. So I would check with them. And then Brother just came out with a brand new sublimation printer as well, and I believe they have their own ink for that. So what I would recommend doing is, based off of which sublimation company you plan to purchase your printer from, ask them that information. I will say that I recommend buying the same brand of ink each time, and here is why. Sublimation ink molecules are thicker than traditional ink molecules, which means that every sublimation ink manufacturer may have slightly different thicknesses in their ink molecules when making it. So to avoid getting your lines clogged, I would recommend just going with the same ink every time, specifically one that is recommended by your printer manufacturer. Fran wants to know if you can purchase sublimation paper at Michael's. The answer is yes. Nicole has put a link. Thank you, Nicole. Samantha wants to know when our next class is. So the next class, I believe, is February 6th. It will not be with me. I will be in labor on that day and time. I know that for a fact because I'm being induced. So it will be with my boss, who again has, I believe, 15 years of sublimation experience in the business. So if you are interested, he will be here to help you on February 6th. I can't remember the time. Nicole, you might have that answer better than I do if you want to put a sign up into the comments. But like I said, it will not be with me. So Judith wants to know if I'm going to show or just answer questions. Judith, great question. This class is just a drop-in to answer questions. Let's see. So Danielle wants to know, am I allowed to recommend a way to make dark or light colored tops with less chemicals and organic cotton? My recommendation would be to use something that is not sublimation. You will not be able to achieve what you're looking to achieve using sublimation. So I would recommend doing direct-to-garment printing or using HTV. Sublimation will not allow you to achieve what you are looking for. Thank you, Renee. The next class is February 6th at 1 p.m. Thank you, Sally. Sally says that you wouldn't even know I'm pregnant. Thank you. I really appreciate that. What other questions do we have? I know generally I'm fighting to keep up with all the questions. Today it looks like the questions are a little bit slower than previously. As I'm looking at the faces here, it does look like I do have some repeat people in the class, which is great. I'm glad some of you are coming back to learn more. But I'm sure that some people have some questions, so I'd love to answer them. Stephanie, great question. Can you use, one second. Can you use different brands of sublimation paper? The answer is yes, but it is important to say sublimation paper, as Stephanie has put. So in your printer, regardless of which kind that you use, you can use basically any sublimation printer, but the printer has to be for sublimation. The printer, yes, the paper has to be for sublimation. And there's two reasons for that. One, sublimation paper is made to withstand the heat of a heat press. Number two is because sublimation paper is thicker than your average printer paper. Because of that, it's made to properly hold the ink that runs through your sublimation printer. So Fran wants to know, is this February 6th class the same? The answer is yes. So I will just briefly break down like why we do the classes the way that we do them. And that is because from what we found when doing these sublimation classes was when I was doing a how-to video on like how to make a mug, how to make a tumbler, I spent most of my time answering questions in the chat because I noticed a lot of people were beginners who just wanted basic answers to questions. So what we decided to do was start doing weekly drop-in classes where people could answer their questions and learn more about the basics of sublimation. We can definitely add in some more classes doing actual project-based learning if there is more of a demand for it. So if there is, please let us know in the chat section, and I would love to make that happen in 8 weeks when I'm back from maternity leave. Danielle wants to know if Michael's has a DTG class. Nicole, if you could answer that, that would be fantastic. I'm not sure if they do. Let's see. So Sally wants to know, is this process something a beginner with access to YouTube could learn once getting the appropriate equipment? Sally, that's a fantastic question, and the answer is yes. We do at Craft Express have how-to tutorials on YouTube that you can follow if you just follow us at Craft Express US. And like I said, we do have previous classes that have been put up on the Michael's YouTube channel that you can follow as well. Fran wants to know what temperature of heat press is needed. Fran, this is a fantastic question. So it depends on what type of item you are pressing. So if you are pressing a ceramic mug versus a stainless steel tumbler, those require two different times. So a ceramic mug would need to be pressed at 392 degrees Fahrenheit for 3.5 minutes. A stainless steel tumbler would need to be pressed at 385 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 minutes. This is because all different types of materials are different types of heat conductors. So they each require different times, temperatures, and pressures in order for them to be sublimated properly. I'm actually, if you guys can give me 2 seconds, since we are a little bit slower on the questions today, I can go and look up. I have made a time, temperature, and pressure guideline sheet for all of our products, and I will put that into the chat for all of you to see. Give me 1 second. and I will get that in there. I know it was a very sought after item last class. There we go. There you go. I've put that in the chat. Okay, so Stacy has a question on sublimation clip art. Other private owned people sell sublimation to put on their sublimation products. How do you make your own? What do you save them as? Hopefully this makes sense. I see what you're saying, Stacy. So Stacy's talking about creating her own designs and wants to know how she goes about doing that. So there are several different ways you can create your own designs. You can do it in Photoshop, Canva. Some printer manufacturers come with their own software editing form. I know what I'm trying to say. Come with their own like art editing software. Yeah, you guys get what I'm trying to say. Sawgrass has their creative studio. Brother has an app where you can design on as well. So wherever you feel most comfortable designing is exactly where you can design. And what you would do is you would save that file in a format that is compatible with your printer. So I know, for example, the print software of Sawgrass, you can do a PNG, you can do a PDF, you can do a TIFF, and you can do a JPEG. So it depends on the printer software of the printer that you have purchased, what kind of file format that artwork has to be in when printing. But you can design basically anywhere. So I'm loving this. Fran wants to see some projects. Abby would like some more advanced classes. Awesome. CJ wants to know, do we have our own page or social media for projects for inspiration? And the answer is yes. If you follow us at Craft Express or at Craft Express US, I'm actually going to quickly, I can share all of our social links real quickly here so you guys can see. You can follow us on social media, and we do upload videos and projects, and we have a bunch of affiliates who also make content with our products. So on Facebook, we're Craft Express. On Instagram, we are at Craft Express US. On YouTube, we are also at Craft Express US. And on TikTok, we are at Craft_Express. So you can find us on all of those locations to get some more learning tutorials and inspirational content. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like more and more people would love to see a how-to class. Okay, that is great to know. And Nicole, thank you very much, is putting into the comments that if you do go back into Michael's YouTube channel, you will find some of those types of classes. But this is great for us to know for the future. So I will make a note of this and make sure that we start doing that for people who are ready to go from beginner into a more intermediate or even advanced level. Ooh, I'm so sorry if I pronounce this name wrong, but I'm going to try. Delisha, I'm going to really hope that's how you pronounce it. If I butchered that, I'm very sorry. Wants to know, can you use an iron or is it best to use a heat press? Great question. It is best to use a heat press for two reasons. One, the standard iron, I don't believe goes up as high as a heat press does for a lot of these items. Majority of items are going to be around 385 degrees Fahrenheit. On top of that, you're going to need a consistent amount of pressure for a consistent amount of time, which is very hard to achieve with an iron. So that's why we recommend using a heat press as opposed to an iron when using sublimation. Let's see. Isabella wants to know if this class requires any supplies. The answer is no. We're just learning here. Stephanie wants to know, if you want to start a business, what software do you recommend to do your accounting and inventory? Stephanie, fantastic question. I'm going to tell you right now, math is not my strong suit. I'm not a numbers person. This is why I'm in crafting. I am not entirely sure. So I know there are some selling platforms, such as like an Etsy or a Shopify, that you can do some of your counting and inventory stuff within the app or within the platform. Beyond that, I would consult good old Google, who knows a lot better than I do. So if anyone else is in the chat and who's already doing their own sublimation or crafting business and has an app or a website that they recommend or a tool, please let Stephanie know. I'm sure you will be more help to her than I will. Okay, another request for a how-to class. Perfect. Do you have a recommendation on the best product to start with? Carrie, that's a fantastic question. So I do. I personally would recommend starting with either mugs or tumblers, and here is why. Both items have a slightly lower overhead cost. Mugs and tumbler presses generally are slightly less expensive than traditional flat presses. Also because you can fit more inventory in your general workspace. People are always looking for mugs and tumblers. They're great items to put photos on. They're great items for gifting. And you have so much possibility for design on them. And unlike t-shirts, you could have small, medium, large, extra large, extra, extra large. You have to, when you're doing t-shirts, you have to carry a wide variety of size of inventory, where with mugs or tumblers, you don't have to. Generally, mugs or tumblers are slightly inexpensive to get into. I believe a 6-pack of mugs is, I want to say, $16.99. So the investment is small, and generally you can turn around and sell one mug, for example, for anywhere between $10 to $15, depending on the size of it and what is on there. When it comes to sublimation and starting a business, yes, the product itself is important, but what's more important is what you put on it. And that's what we call emotional value. That's a term my boss coined a few years ago, basically meaning that people are always willing to pay more money when an item has a design or photo on it of a person, place, or thing that means something to them, that has value in their heart. So that is how you can recoup more money, is by playing on the emotional value that an item can give to somebody. So I would say I would recommend tumblers or mugs. Let's see. Okay, more people asking for how-to classes. I love that. I'm really happy to know that that's what you guys are looking for. That helps us moving forward. So Deborah wants to know, is there always going to be a seam on a tumbler? And the answer is, it depends. So if you look here, this tumbler, you can barely see it. It has a slight seam, but it doesn't have a gap. That's because I made sure to print this to be large enough to cover the entire surface. Now, if this was just a plain wrap that was blue or pink, the chances of you ever seeing a seam would be very thin, because there's nothing to line up. When it comes to a heavy design, sometimes you can see the seam, sometimes you can't. What you really have to do is practice. Practice lining things up. I recommend making your design so that it slightly overlaps each other, and then taping your tumbler all the way down using heat tape. Let's see. Will the Cricut Mug Press work for this? Fran, the answer is yes. The Cricut Mug Press will work for sublimation for like our mugs. The only thing I will say is I have heard that the Cricut Mug Press does not allow you to press on glass. I'm not sure if that's true or not, or if that's just a recommendation, but I would look into that before you try to press a glass mug. Carrie, great recommendation. So she just wanted to share to check your local library or community center to see if they have a maker space with some of the equipment. If you're not ready to invest and want to try it out first, Carrie, that's a fantastic recommendation. So someone wants to know, do we have any stores slash vendors where tumblers, mugs, and t-shirts can be purchased in bulk? Obviously, we sell items through Michaels. I think we have some items on the Michaels website or the Michaels marketplace that we do sell in bulk. But you can send me an email, Megan. I'll put my email in here, Megan at craftexpress.com. And we can talk more about buying in bulk there. So Stephanie has a fantastic question. Do you recommend using a tumbler press or oven? And the answer is it depends on what you're looking to make. So generally, I'm a big tumbler press fan because you can press a wide variety of tumblers and mugs within a tumbler press. However, once you start diving into items that are oddly shaped, you're going to want an oven. Or if you want to press multiple items at once, you're going to want an oven. When it comes to a tumbler press, you can only press one tumbler at a time. In an oven, you can generally press about 4 tumblers at a time. In a tumbler press, you can press 2 mugs at a time. In an oven, you can generally press 4 to 6 mugs at a time, depending on the size. So the oven will allow you to press oddly shaped items in a larger amount, but it takes a longer period of time. Pressing a tumbler in a tumbler press is 2 minutes. Pressing a tumbler, and we're talking stainless steel here, pressing a stainless steel tumbler in an oven is 8 minutes. So it's going to vary with your time. So just be aware of that between the tumbler press and the oven. I also like the tumbler press because I feel like I have more control over my item in a tumbler press versus the oven because with an oven you use a sleeve, a shrink wrap sleeve to help with that pressure. And sometimes it can wrinkle a little bit. We have an oven. I've used our oven. It works great, but I just prefer the tumbler press personally. Will the Cricut mugs at Michael's work for sublimation? Fran, I believe they will because I believe that they are coded for sublimation. But if you want to definitely be sure, we have mugs at Michael's that will most definitely work for sublimation. At least we have them on the website. We're in 50 Michael's stores across the country. So I'm not sure if there's one near you or not. Okay, we have a few minutes left. Any questions? Any more questions, rather? Like we said before, we will be back February 6th at 1 p.m. I believe that's 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you have, if you want to learn more from somebody else, my boss, Vic, will be the one to host that class February 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to sign up there. And we have 2 classes in February and 2 classes in March. And then I will be back in April. So at that time, what we will do is because there seems to be a demand for more watching the sublimation process and learning in more of a hands-on way, we will start adding in more of those classes for our more beginners looking to go into intermediate and intermediate looking to go into advanced learners. So thank you for those recommendations, and we will make sure to go ahead and do that. Once again, where you can follow us is on Facebook, Craft Express, on Instagram at Craft Express US, on YouTube at Craft Express US, and TikTok at Craft_Express. So those are the places, again, where you can find us online. Stephanie wants to know, what is a good Tumblr press? I know you can't recommend a specific one. Can you speak to 1, 2, or 3? I can recommend one. It would be the Craft Express Tumblr press, our brand. I love it. I've had mine for 2 years now, since our company was started, and it's worked perfectly for me. I've never had any problems with it. Let's see. Any other questions? I'll leave it open for like another minute before I hand it back to Nicole. So if you have any questions, let me know. Again, February 6th is our next class. I've just let you know where you can find us on social. Stacy wants to know, does the Craft Express Tumblr Press do all tumbler sizes? And the answer is, it presses up to 30-ounce skinny tumblers and as small as 15-ounce mugs. So anywhere in that range. So basically 15-ounce tumblers to 30-ounce skinny tumblers. And then there are attachments you can get for larger sizes. So we do have a 40-ounce attachment for if anyone wants to make one of those 40-ounce tumblers, aka the Stanley. Because we do have a version of that. Stephanie, I have multiple. Okay, so this right here, this is our Craft Express Elite Pro Tumbler Press. This comes with just a standard 20-ounce attachment that can press up to 30-ounce skinny tumblers. I would just honestly recommend this one. It's great. It comes in blue and it comes in pink. So I recommend this. Tina, can you press twice? First press a design and second press a name. So Tina, I would not recommend that. And here is why. Every time that heat touches that ink is activated. And when that ink is activated, a few things can happen. One, some ink can escape and cause your tumbler or design that you're pressing to become a little bit warped in color. And the other reason is because it can cause what we call ghosting. And that is when you see your design and then shifted behind it is your design again, just faded. And I would not recommend doing this like a design then a name, because as we said before, our sublimation inks are transparent. So you're going to see some of the image potentially like in the name of what's behind it. What I recommend doing is just making a design, like printing your design and creating it with a name already. So having a designing this on your computer, designing the name on top of it on your computer, and printing it all as one sheet and then pressing it. So I never recommend pressing twice. Let's see, any other ones? It looks like we have really slowed down on the questions. So Nicole, I will hand it back over to you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thanks for being interested in sublimation. Very sorry that I'm going to be gone for a while, but very much looking forward to coming back in April. And thank you, Carrie. Carrie says congrats on the baby. Thank you. Very much looking forward to coming back in April. In the meantime, you're in very good hands with my boss, Vic, as he helps everybody through. Although Stacy says good luck, give lots of squishes. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of people saying good luck, so I really appreciate that. So I'll be back in April with more classes, and look forward to doing some more demos and helping everybody learn in a way that's best for everyone out there. So Nicole, I'll hand it back over to you, and I appreciate everyone tuning in.
Well, thank you, Megan. We appreciate you, and thank you all for joining us. We hope you had a great time, got your questions answered, and we look forward to seeing you in another class. Take care.